Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardinal Orfist Cardfight Vanguard Overdress deck profile for post-awakening of Chakrabarthi. The Cardinal Orfist deck actually didn't get too much support in the newest set, but as always, I always like to update any of the changes I've made, whether it be with ratios or just overall some of the numbers in the deck. And the new cards do definitely help with some of the playstyle involving the Shadow Army tokens, which is the main play setup for the Orfist deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck for our grade 0. We're running the Cardinal Fang, Fovi. They all just have the same skill for the grade 0. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Cardinal Noid Rotis. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, search your deck for up to 1 world card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. You run a good number of set orders in this deck that focus on the world plays, having all of the different Howling, Moonlit Night card, or the Overcoming Eternity, all of them, which we'll go over when we get to the order cards. With this and our next grade 2, which is Cardinal Noid Kubisia. When this world card is put into your order zone, choose one of your units and it gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. So normally you'll want to set up those world orders so you can have your Abyssal Dark Knight set up on the field to get your Shadow Army tokens with your Cardinal Deuce Orfist, your main go-to grade 3 unit in the deck. And with so we are running 3 additional copies of this card with it on Vanguard or Rearguard during your turn. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets plus 5,000 power. And if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can counterblast 2 and call up to 3 Shadow Army tokens to Rearguard. It is a setup for the tokens to use, and what's great is it is not a once per turn with Orfist. So if you have the setup for some of your other units, which I can show in a combo play at the end, setting up more and more tokens on the field for you to utilize against your opponent. The other grade 3 that I am running is the newest one from set 4, and that is Cardinal Draco Mazzarella. You can retire a Shadow Army token, and this unit gets plus 10,000 power until end of turn. If this ability was activated for the 3rd time this turn, this unit gets critical plus 1 as well. This is not a once per turn skill, so you can keep retiring those Shadow Army tokens and then just build up Mazzarella's attack power. And with it, this is the main play that I spoke of with Orfist to use, because what you'll do is you'll summon out the Orfist with your ride, and then the counterblast will give you the 3 tokens on the field, and then you will retire all 3 for powering up your Mazzarella, and then you can use Orfist. It will be a heavy counterblast cost, but this is just if you know the guaranteed win against your opponent, calling the 3 additional tokens depending on where you want them on the field, and then having this beefed up Mazzarella on the field to use against your opponent also. If I just like the 2 copies though, I'm still running some of the other grade 2 lineups for the setup. Moving on to the grade 2s, running 4 of the Cardinal Draco Alvidern during your turn. If your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets plus 2,000 power. If it's Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets 5,000 instead. And also on Rearguard, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked, retire a Shadow Army token, choose one of your opponent's Rearguards and retire it. So the reason I run 4 of this card is because retiring your opponent's Rearguards is a definite plus play compared to the power-up, just taking away their resources, making it a definite 4 of in the deck, so you always have this and the use of your Shadow Army tokens against your opponent altogether. And I also run for the grade 2s, 2 of the Cardinal Draco Destijate. If your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets plus 2,000 power. If it is Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets plus 5,000 instead, just like the Alvidern. And on Rearguard, at the end of the battle of this unit attack, you can retire 3 Shadow Army tokens and stand this unit. So whether you use Destijate or your Mazzarella, you're going for 2 different types of playstyles. You're going for the overall push with Mazzarella, and you're going with the restand power for 4 attacks using Destijate. So it really comes down to what triggers you have left in the deck. If you have more of a critical pressure lineup, you can then go for the restand with Destijate, or if you're going for the pressure, not knowing your opponent has a Sentinel, you'll use Mazzarella and then hit for the big numbers against them with that additional critical. That is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. For the grade 1 lineup, we're running 4 of the Thumberino. On Rearguard, when this unit boosts a Shadow Army token, you may have this unit get plus 15 until end of turn. If you do, at the end of the battle, retire all of your Rearguards in the same column as this unit and draw a card. So the additional Rearguard you'll retire will be a Shadow Army token, but it makes up for it since you basically call these cards out for nothing. And then you can use the draw to basically get a unit off of the field that could either be imprisoned by your opponent if they're running Shining Aurora Valkyries, or retired or put into the soul from decks like Barrow Magnus. Avoiding that, clearing up your field for Shadow Army tokens, which won't go into prison or into your soul, since they're just a token on the field. I also run 4 of the early set 1 bobble mine. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, put it into your soul and countercharge 1. It makes up for the heavy counterblast that Orfist will use, especially with the Shadow Army tokens. It calls out for the heavy counterblast, especially if you set up for cards like Mazzarella for the retire, and then at least being able to recycle those cards is why I like to run 4 bobble mine altogether. And for the rest of the grade 1s, just 4 of the Violate Dragon. Just like the other Sentinels that have the 1 or less card in hand, it saves you a card to discard when you block against your opponent, meaning if they have 1 more attack, you can guard that final card in your hand and not have to discard anything for either one of the Sentinels. Moving on now to the set order worlds. The best one was still the one from set 1, and that is Howling Moonlit Night. You play this card with a Soul Blast 1. When this unit is put into the order zone, you draw a card. And then if your order zone has world cards, the following effects are activated in accordance to the number of cards in your order zone. If it's 1, your world becomes Dark Knight. If it's 2 or more, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So this Abyssal Dark Knight play will then rely on your tokens also for your Cardinal Deuce Orfist to then be able to call out 3 tokens, since your world has to be Abyssal Dark Knight. But 4 of this just keeps the draw consistency. It makes up for the additional order you would have had in your hand to play into the order zone, giving you that draw to add back to your hand. And I also run, for some of the lower numbers, the 1 Eclipsed Moonlight, the 1 In the Darkness Nobody Knows, and the 1 Overcoming an Eternity. The Eclipsed Moonlight you play with a Counterblast, and when it's put into the order zone, you call a Shadow Army token to your Rearguard, giving you just an additional 1, along with the 3 that Orfist will potentially use. And within the Darkness Nobody Knows, you play it with a Soul Blast of 1. When it's put into the order zone, choose one of your opponent's front row Rearguards and retire it. And Overcoming an Eternity, if your order zone only has world cards, the following effects are activated and according to the number of cards in your order zone plus 1. Or if it's 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. And if it's 1, your world becomes Dark Knight. And from the order zone, when a Shadow Army token is placed, it gets +5 until end of turn. You only really need 1 ofs for each of these. You have the retire power, which you could potentially run 2 of for In the Darkness Nobody Knows. If you were to do so, you could then just drop maybe 1 of the numbers of Howling Moonlit Night to 3 and run 2 of that. But they're all searchable with your Ride deck setup as well. So depending on what you already have in your hand, the potential 4 of Howling Moonlit Night means you'll see those cards more often, and then giving you a better chance to search one of these to add to your hand. And then for the trigger lineup, I'm running 7 criticals, so 4 of the Patrol Robo Decker Cop and 3 of the Cardinal Draco Barbizoned. I just feel it's great pressure along with the power or the restand that your other Cardinal units can provide. And also 4 of the new draw trigger, which is the Ameliorate Connector, having the additional +5 shield to use against your opponent. And lastly, the 4 heals being the Cardinal heal, just the most fitting with the deck. And also the Elder Breath for the additional over trigger, double the power and trigger of all your front row units until the end of the turn as the additional effect. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Quickly got through the rest of the brand new decks. There's only a couple decks left to update from set 4 for Awakening of Chakrabarthi, so I hope you all stay tuned for that. Definitely a fun one with all the Shadow Army tokens. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.